Welcome to Search for Signs. My name is Gary Willing. If this information interests you, please press the like and subscribe button and press the bell for notifications. Now, these masters of wisdom, there's several dozen of them, not very many masters in the world right now. Some of them are not working directly with humanity. Other ones will be working very directly with humanity in the future. Now, it's starting and has already started with Maitreya coming out on TV. But these masters for millennia have all worked from behind the scenes through their disciples in the world, the men and women from all walks of life in all countries of the world that have helped to aid the progress of humanity on whatever field they're in, the arts, social field, medicine, science, technology, politics, religion, spirituality, philosophy, education, and so forth. Anybody who's done anything, even if it's a tiny, tiny, tiny amount, has aided these masters' plans in the world, because these masters are only about the evolution of all the kingdoms on the planet, but the ones that we're concerned with right now and talking about right now are the ones that are aiding in the human evolution. But they've had to work behind the scenes for centuries. They just can't come right out and go out into the everyday world, start out being totally remote and then being out in the everyday world the next day. It just doesn't work like that. It's a slow, very slow, gradual process. Not because of them. It's not because they're lazy and like to procrastinate like me, but because of the human response. The masters don't infringe upon our free will ever. But if we all looked at ourselves, not one of us could ever make that claim, because that's what separates us from them. If there is a separation, if there's a line of demarcation between who the masters are and who we are, it's the fact that they don't infringe on on anyone's free will, and we do. That they only see unity moment to moment, and we only see separation for the majority of the time. Every once in a while we might experience unity, but it's brief, right? Now, it's going to start to become more and more commonplace amongst humanity too, as humanity starts to evolve, that sense of unity, sense of cooperation, justice, and so forth, the need for justice, where people will, the inner desire that we all have in our hearts for unity and justice will start to manifest more and more as time goes on. Because we'll be looking directly to these masters for guidance, where before there was always an intermediary. There was always somebody that was teaching us. The great disciples like Jesus or Muhammad or Buddha or Krishna or just any of the great teachers throughout history. They've all been doing the work of these masters of wisdom, giving us a truth. Jesus giving a lot of the laws of life, the need for harmlessness, the fact of reincarnation, fact that you can heal yourself through fasting and so forth. I mean, a lot of the great central truths of the ageless wisdom teachings, teachers like Jesus or the Buddha or Muhammad, all taught the people at the time. Now, the problem is that they eventually all passed away, and that was it. And their work had to be carried out by all the men and women who weren't quite as pure and as evolved as these teachers were. And of course, great distortions came into their teachings. And then humanity started to, use the distortions, because it was a distorted information at that point, to the point where we're at today. Now, these masters, like I said, don't infringe on free will. So we have to start to change our ways of thinking, right? The masters can only point the way. And a little side note, it was a funny story, but you might not think it's funny. I think it's hilarious. But Benjamin Creme was telling a story about when he was working with his master. He used to work telepathically with his master moment to moment. His master was in the Himalayas and he was living in London, but at an instant they could talk to one another inwardly in his own head. And Benjamin Creme was asking him questions about some of the ageless wisdom teachings, and he thought he was getting pretty good at some of these things. So he'd ask a question, and he goes, Am I right on that? And his master would say, yes, that's it. Exactly. Yeah, he said, that's it exactly. And then he would ask another question. His master would say, yes, that's it exactly. And then he would ask another question. Yes, that's it exactly. And after, I don't know how long it took, but Benjamin Creme started to kind of figure out that why does he keep responding with that answer to all his with all his questions? And come to find out, his master was just saying, yes, that's it exactly how you see it. He wasn't saying it was true. He was just saying that's exactly how you see it. And that's the way Jesus spoke to his disciples and the people and the Pharisees and the Romans when they imprisoned him and arrested him. It was the same thing. When Pontius Pilate asked him, are you the king of the Jews? He said, no, that's what they say. They say it. They say it. So when the Pharisees were referring to Jesus as, and accusing him of being a demon, rather than saying, no, I'm not a demon, he said, well, if I'm a demon, why am I casting out demons? See, they aren't always direct in their communication. They want you to figure it out, because it's more important for you to figure it out, even if it takes you a lifetime to figure out some of their teachings. That to them is worth more than just telling you and giving you the answer. And when you see these masters, and like Maitreya and Jesus and so forth, you'll see people with infinite amount of patience, with very simple solutions to our very complex man-made problems. But yet at the same time, you won't see any urge to push or to infringe on our free will the way that all of us do to one another. And the truth behind their words, they want you to figure out for yourself. That's why Maitreya always says he's only here to point the way. And like I said, I'm not expecting people to change their beliefs, but it's interesting to note that even some of the comments on my videos, but especially on some of the other videos that are very negative in terms of bashing Maitreya doesn't go around saying he's the Christ, or he's the Buddha, or he's the Sri Krishna come back, or he's the imam. He doesn't say anything like that. He's only claiming to be one of us, only claiming to help give the solutions to solving our problems. For example, if you want peace in the world, if you want a future for all humanity, right? We have to have peace, right? I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. There's too much war going on. And according to the masters, any one of those wars could lead to a bigger war to where all the nations are involved, and it would end up being nuclear and wipe all the life off on this planet. But the only way to get to peace is to create justice in the world. Everyone in the world has to realize that they matter. Everyone in the world has to realize that life is there for them too. It's not just a select few, right? It's not fair to have just a tiny bit of people who are maybe a lot more ambitious than everybody else and have more resources than other people to be able to rule, the masses the way that they do. It's not a just situation. But the only way to create justice is to share the resources that are available for everyone. Now, again, it doesn't mean that these masters or the UN or any other organization is going to go in and strip all your money out of your bank account. That's not what they're talking about. They're just saying that if, great countries like the United States, they have a lot of excess of food or building products or, minerals or whatever, that they could give some, not all of it, but give some of the excess freely to other countries. Those countries, as they start to rebuild their infrastructure and their nations, will start to have more and more excesses themselves, which they could repay back for for using the resources of this country. But it has nothing to do with the individual. It's more of country to country. And then as fear starts to subside, people won't feel the need to make hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. I remember hearing a story about Michael Eisner from Disney. When he was running Disney, was making $380,000 a day in the mid 90s, which is a lot of money now, let alone 20 years ago. And somebody from I think it was Newsweek, asked him, if you gave up just $40,000 a day or $20,000 a day, you could modernize the plants in Vietnam that were making all the plush toys for Disney, give them proper ventilation, health care, a decent wage. And he told him no, he didn't want to do that. And he'd still be living off of $320,000 a day, but he couldn't give up just $20,000 a day for that. Now, if you're having a hard time making ends meet now, well, that doesn't really apply to you. It only applies to the ultra, ultra, ultra rich. Now, again, these masters aren't going to infringe upon anybody's free will, so they're not going to just go and take it from them. But hopefully, these people, as they start to, trust more and lose some of that fear, of course, their greed will start to subside. And then they'll start to give a little bit more here or there or whatever. But it's not everybody, but I'm sure some of the people will. And it's already kind of starting to happen now. Bill Gates committing to giving up half his income, or that his wealth to the poor or whatever. Philanthropy has always been around, but it's for the person to come up with that, you see. So with these masters, when people really bash Maitreya, they're coming from a human perspective of fear, one, separation, another, religious ideology and dogma, another, but these masters don't operate in those boxes like we do. And so when you see them, they're only going to be giving simple solutions to all our very complex problems. But it's for us to decide. But in the meantime, and as always, take action. Help SOP save our planet. Thanks for listening, and we look forward to talking to you again in future videos. Have a great day.